Hey guys, welcome back to Olivia's Blooms. Today I am going to show you some really super easy decorative projects that you can do with either flowers, plants, or just materials that you can find in the garden. And it's so simple and easy to make some beautiful holiday decorations. Now we celebrate two holidays in my family. We celebrate both Hanukkah and Christmas. I'm going to show you some Christmas decorations, but you could easily swap these out, and I do often with colors in blue or silver. So I think this will work for any holiday that you like to celebrate. So the first thing I'm going to show you is just some easy amaryllis planters. And amaryllis are bulbs that typically are not hardy in any of the zones in most of the United States. They like very warm climates, and they bloom in the winter time indoors. So I have one that I just bought at a store, and they can be very pricey. This one actually is one I had never seen before, and even though it was $20, I could not help myself. It was this beautiful green color. So I wanted to try it out. I only bought one so I could do a smaller planter with it because it was so expensive. But I also have some amaryllis bulbs that I kept from last year, and you can try and get them to bloom from year to year. What I did was, after these bloomed last Christmas, I put them outside, let them spend the summer. Once we had no more freezing nights, I put these outside, make sure they were moist, just like you would any outdoor plant. And then about 8 weeks ago, I brought them inside. I put them in a dark place, and I stopped watering them, and that's so they can have a dormant period. And then about 6 weeks before, when you want them to bloom, it doesn't have to be the holidays, you could have them bloom in January, February, some pink ones for maybe Valentine's Day. So usually they take about 6 weeks to bloom. So I just took these out of storage and I cut off the foliage. This one, you can see, is already starting to get a bloom stalk on it, so it probably won't be 6 weeks. This is probably gonna bloom sooner than that, but that's okay. Then I'll have a nice succession of blooms. And potting up amaryllis is really, really simple. So you can see here with these, and I gotta make sure these are not too covered. You wanna plant the amaryllis bulb only about this deep, about a third of the way to half of the way up the bulb. These can sit either in potting soil or water, but the bulbs are prone to rot, so you don't wanna bury them all the way up here. And so this one is super simple. I have this beautiful moss-covered pot. I filled it with some moistened potting soil, and I'm just gonna put this right in the center, and again, bury it only 2/3 of the way up the bulb. Now, you might think that looks beautiful in and of itself. You could put some stones around it, but if you don't love the look of the bulb showing, you can add, and I'm gonna add some moss around it. But before we add some beautiful green moss, another thing about amaryllis is some varieties get very tall and you're gonna wanna stake them. So what I'm gonna do for these is, I have some of these branches, and you could use any branches with red berries. These I had to buy from Trader Joe's because, again, my garden is very, very new, but my hope is I planted a lot of holly, and I'm hoping that as the hollies get bigger, I can use their red berries for these types of decorations. But these are some branches I bought from Trader Joe's, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna stick these in the pot around this beautiful green amaryllis. And I'm gonna let these sort of serve as some informal support. I've seen people do a lot of beautiful different things. You could take some willow branches and bend them over. You could use just a small little trellis. You could certainly, if you don't have any of that, you could just use a skewer and maybe try and hide it. But I'm just gonna use these beautiful branches, and that gives me something pretty to look at while I wait for this to bloom. And then I'm going to cover the outside in this beautiful moss so that all you see is the plant. And you could use any color moss that you want, but that to me just says Christmas. And as this beautiful lime green blooms start to show, I think that's gonna be lovely. So I did, as I mentioned, I pre-moistened the soil here. Now, these amaryllis I just took out of storage, and these look very dry and papery, but I'm not too worried about that because if you pull some of the paper back, you can see the bulbs are still healthy and alive. So I think I'm gonna get some pretty blooms out of this. And I have this just in a birch planter, again with some drainage. I moistened the soil as soon as I took it out. And for this one, I am going to use these white branches. And these, again, are ones that I already had from Trader Joe's last year. Because we were moving, I didn't have any garden to cut from, but you could cut any branches that you have from any of your shrubs, and you could spray paint them or just leave them natural. And you can use these, and I'm just gonna put these around here as my, again, informal stakes. And the blooms, the amaryllis blooms aren't huge, so I found in past years that they don't need tons and tons of really, really strong support, just something to keep the bloom from flopping over. And again, this almost just looks like a pretty little birch forest while I wait for the blooms to show. And I think it looks beautiful, so I'm gonna add some moss to this one as well. Let me see what color I wanna do. I might do this lighter green. Make sure you guys can see this. And this project could not be simpler or easier. And I like trying to save the bulbs because, again, they are so expensive. And what you're gonna wanna do once you have these all set up is they are gonna need sun because these are living plants, they're not cut flowers. You're gonna wanna find a sunny spot. I found that it doesn't have to be full direct sun, but you do wanna make sure they're getting some sun. You don't wanna put them in a completely shady spot. And you just wanna make sure that they are not gonna be anywhere that gets freezing temperatures because they will freeze and die. If I can look up what zone these are, I will put that on the screen just in case you're in a very southern climate where maybe you don't even need to bring them in for the winter if you're a very warm place. And I think their foliage, even when the blooms are done, they look very pretty, and I didn't mind them out on my deck. I thought they looked beautiful. I'll see if I can find a picture of their foliage, but I think it's really pretty. Okay. All right, I'm gonna give you guys a closer look, and then I'm gonna show you some of the other decor that I made with things that you can cut from your own garden. Okay, so here's a closer look at what we made. And I think they're both beautiful. This is more of a rich brown and green and red, and that lime green I think is just gonna pop among these berries. And even though this is leaning to the side, I'll just put it where the sun is over here so it can start to make its way back. And then this one is a little more modern, and they almost look like candles to me in a birch forest. And I already know this is gonna look spectacular once they bloom because last year it was just beautiful with the red flowers bursting through the white. So I can't wait to show you guys once these start blooming. But I'm gonna go put these in a sunny spot and make sure they're getting plenty of sun and water so we can have a beautiful holiday show. All right, here's where I put the first one. Right underneath the window. And let me go show you where I'm going to put the other one. All right, spot number 2. I think this is gonna be the perfect amount of light. We're towards the end of the day here, so the light's shifting away, but during the day, this should get a little bit of sunlight. And I think these will be happy here. Next, I want to show you a couple other easy, simple decorations that you can make with things from around the garden. Here is the first simple and easy decoration you can make with things from around the garden. And here I have a bunch of greens. Some of these I purchased because, again, my evergreens outside are very small, and Bear's gonna help us show it off. But some of these I did forage, and there's spruce and some pine and I believe a little bit of cedar, but you can use any greens that you have around. You can find areas to forage as long as you know it's okay to forage there. And all I did was take a simple tray that I had. I laid out some greens underneath. I put some pine cones in, and we have tons of pine cones behind our house. You could use acorns, you could use hickory nuts, any kind of beautiful element that you like from nature, you could add here. And I also have, again, these are the berries that I had bought, and we used the remainder in the amaryllis, but you could use any type of berry that you have, red, white, pink, purple. And then I added these simple ornaments on top, and all these are just inexpensive small ornaments that I stuck in here. And just some candles and a few really inexpensive metal trees. But this will be so easy, again, to swap out for another holiday. So for when we celebrate Hanukkah, I'll probably take these out and put some blue and silver ornaments in there. I'll take out the trees and maybe swap them for a silver tree like this, or you could even put a menorah here, and I think it would be just as beautiful. But there's something about having those natural elements inside when it's so cold that I just love. And let me go show you one other easy, simple one that I made. So right now I'm in what's known as our little plant area, and we have some big poinsettias that we saved from last year. They are taking their time coloring up, but we're really excited for them to turn red so that we have these big red poinsettias to reuse this year. But in the meantime, I could not resist this beautiful red and white speckled poinsettia that we'll also, of course, probably try and save. But underneath here, I have just, again, a big metal tray, and this is an inexpensive plant tray from Terrain, so you could use any kind of tray you have. Again, I laid out some greens, some berries, some pine cones, and some ornaments, and I just put the poinsettia in the middle and surrounded it with some candles, but it just is something that anyone can do with things that they find around their garden. And I would love to see what you guys make with things from around your yard. I was very inspired by Klaus Dalby. He is a wonderful gardener and amazing designer in Scandinavia, and they were doing tons of just simple, easy, natural decorations, and that's what really inspired me this year. So I hope you guys share with me everything that you made, and I hope you had as much fun making things from the garden as I did. What is the name of this plant? Oh,